Hello, Mr. Mark. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce your last name, since your last name is actually of French origin, and thus, in French, it would be Mark Champneys. But I think you're American, so I'll pronounce it in an American fashion, which would be Mark Champneys. Pardon me if that is not a correct pronunciation. At any rate, I want to provide a refutation of your video, Evolution Demolition, since it has become very, very successful in views and comment quantity, and I am myself an evolutionist, and I feel you have presented some concerns or refutations of evolution that deserve to be acknowledged and addressed by the opposition. And if I'm not mistaken, no one has provided a refutation of your concerns on evolution in video form yet. The first mistake your video makes is around 1 minute and 45 seconds in. You narrate that they say atheists have two things they want to communicate with people. Number one, there is no God, and number two, I hate him. That is actually totally false. Most atheists do not hold to the variety of atheism that would have them say there is no God. That is called strong atheism. Most atheists are weak atheists in that they simply lack belief in God or reject God belief, but don't make the stronger claim that there is no God. It is also grossly incorrect to say that atheists hate God. Some probably do, the vast majority do not, and some couldn't care less either way. The second mistake you make in your video, Mr. Champneys, is around the 4 minute and 17 second point. You say there is no rational basis for atheism without evolution. That is totally false. A person can be an atheist without holding to evolution. They are separate issues and fields, though they do often go hand in hand with a given person. The third mistake you make happens around 13:13 of your video. You say the primary thing atheists hang their hat on is abiogenesis. That is ridiculously false. Atheists do not hang their hat on abiogenesis. Most, as far as I can tell, don't even care about abiogenesis, and some don't even know what abiogenesis even is. Mr. Champneys, your understanding of natural selection is very faulty. You say that natural selection is a destructive principle. That is flat false. Natural selection is a process of preservation and selection of traits that make organisms more able to survive rather than be destroyed or die. You are also wrong in saying that natural selection destroys non-viable information. Natural selection is about naturally selecting the most viable traits or variants within a given population or species. Your question at around 1849 reveals again that you don't properly understand natural selection. Natural selection doesn't require a reproductive system. Natural selection requires variation in traits that can be selected for or against. The reproduction simply passes that greater survivability and fitness on to the next generation. You can see this if you think about the fact that even if an entire species or population stopped reproducing altogether, as long as there is genetic variation, natural selection would still be operating on the genome to select the traits that lead to greater survival, longer survival, and environmental fitness. But without the reproduction, those selected traits simply wouldn't be passed on to another generation. Your claim at 2406 that no instance of a mutation making information has ever been confirmed is false. One instance or example of a mutation making information is nylon eating bacteria. Another example, if that is not sufficient, is reported by New Scientist. Some monkeys have a mutation in a protein called TRIM5 that results in a piece of another defunct protein being tacked on to TRIM5. The result is a hybrid protein called TRIM5-CYPA, which can protect cells from infection with retroviruses such as HIV. Here, a single mutation has resulted in a new protein with a new and potentially vital function. New protein, new function, new information. You also need to understand, Mr. Champneys, that many, if not most, new information in organisms comes by way not of just bare mutation, but gene duplication in conjunction with frame shift mutation or single base substitutions. At 2049 of your video, you state that mutations destroy information. They do not create it. This claim trades on you being vague with what you mean by the word information. If you mean by information a change in the sequence of nucleotides, then all mutations create information. If you mean by information and creating information an increase in the amount of information in the genome, then an increase in size or amount of information is accounted for and created by gene duplication events. If you mean by information the creation of beneficial information or beneficial instructions, then that is highly contextual, since a mutation being deleterious in one environment can be beneficial in another. Also, bacterial antibiotic resistance would then be an example of a mutation creating beneficial information. In my view, Mr. Champneys, at this point, there are only two more salient concerns or objections you have to evolution in your video. The first one is your question to describe the mechanism for spontaneous increase of order within an open system. This is easy to answer. While I don't really agree with your use of the word spontaneous, the answer is the principle of self-organization. The last thing in your video that I feel needs to be addressed is your claim that hundreds of millions of years ago, the moon would have been so close to the earth, the tides would have been enormous, making the oceans wash over the continents, eroding them completely flat and covering every bit of land with water 1.5 miles deep. You then say this is undeniable proof that 1 billion years of evolution is impossible. This claim fails because hundreds of millions of years ago, the moon would have been sufficiently far away to where its gravitational pull on tides would not have caused such problems, since the moon, having been created 4.5 billion years ago, going back even 500 million years, the moon would have been receding from the earth for 4 billion years. Also, when the moon was very close to have caused such violent tidal forces on the continents, it would not have disrupted the evolution of life, since life did not start on land, but in the oceans.